Hi friends, hello, welcome back. Can you hear me better or not? I'm testing these new mics out, seeing if it's going to work out. I'd have to get a better one. Doesn't matter. Damn cold here in Canada today. I got the old woolen hats on, a couple different layers, I think about 3 or 4 on, but it's in the minus 21 degrees Celsius. Hard to be outside. My little shop is not heated, so we do the best we can. But today's video is going to be a good one. Today, sure that's all right. I had an interesting comment from a YouTuber not too long ago, and I thought, awesome, what a great small video to put out. There's many different chopping blocks. This is my current go-to guy, and he's made out of a very large log of cedar, I believe. So how I've done it myself, I personally prefer to use a larger surface without having any kind of rests that are sort of traditional to the chopping block. As you can see, what I've done is done a cutout down below, and I've made my tool rest or my spoon rest lower. And that all it does is enable me to go ahead and chop freely up here without having anything in my way. But you don't have to do it like that. A traditional chopping block would have some kind of spoon or tool rest, and what usually happens is they would chainsaw sort of all the way down, come all the way across. That would be your chopping block base, and then this little wedge that would be left right here would be more or less your spoon rest. Now again, I made a drop down because I don't mind leaning over to do the sort of corner work that you need to do and leave my workspace completely free without obstruction, so I can axe as I need to. I do more than just spoons, so it requires that I have a little bit more space as well too. But this is just one standard chopping block. The legs are mortise and tenon style, so I drilled them, found the center point, and gone ahead and axed out some legs and then hammered them in and then set the block up myself. So I'll give you the run through. Typically what you want to do is you want to get yourself a chainsaw. You don't have to get a chainsaw. When it comes to choosing the wood itself, you can use any wood you want when it comes to a chopping block. Typically most people, if you'd like to have the block last for a while, is try to find something that's really gnarly. Lots of burls, twists, you've got conjoining branches and things like that. Try to find something like that, because in all of that sort of mixture of wood grains and variations is strength. So that strength is going to make it so that each axe blow that you bear down on it is going to last so much longer and be able to absorb all of that impact that much longer. That being said, again, you can use whatever you want. You don't have to use something large. You could use something small if you'd like to. It really comes down to the person's body and how they are more comfortable standing for periods of time, continually doing axe work. So this guy here is a little bit larger than a standard chopping block, but the sort of mentality on it is weight. I didn't want things rocking around on me, and that's initially what you don't want, is you don't want things moving or wobbling. So to make things stable is a lot easier and more safe too. This guy, I just wanted the weight of it all because I'm doing quite a lot of carving and I don't want to worry about that rickety-tippity thing. So anyway, you have to use anything this big. It's overkill. It just fit, and I did it at the end. So you can use other things, like things that are a lot smaller, which actually I have something here to show you guys. This here could be a chopping block if you wanted to. I was considering making a bench, but now that I really look at things, I may actually make this into a block. So it's a lot thinner, as you can see. It's a piece of walnut. And again, it doesn't matter about the species. It's completely up to you guys and whatever you have available. So walnut, just leave that right there. But as you can see, the thickness is different, obviously, than this guy. Does it really matter? Well, yes. This guy's going to last longer because there's more material. This will last a long time, but eventually how you're going to be axing over time, it will go quicker than this. That also depends on species of wood too. So I'm getting real nitty gritty here, but I want to be able to give a lot of information when it comes to this type of thing. It's not complicated. You know, you can use anything for a block. Some people will just use a stump, place it on the ground, and they're done. It's got a lot of stability depending on how they use it, and they just go for it. Other people will make things so it's got varying levels, so they can do things on certain angles, or if they have people coming over or carving with them, then certain heights of different people, it helps them out to be able to do different things. So like I said, the world is very open and subjective as to what you want to do. For me, this works best for me. So how do you find that center point? Well, we're going to use this guy as an example. So say we were about to build this guy. You need yourself a nice straight edge, and potentially one of these guys, protractor. I use this for turning, but you can do whatever you want to, and you don't even have to really use this, but that's what I do. So you're going to try to find the furthest distance running each way. So you're not making an X, you're making a series of lines to actually find center, because each tree is different. Unless you get a perfectly round tree or piece of log, when you do that, you'll always come down to the center pith. But with tree shapes like this, you want to go length to length and continually do that. So for me, I would do something like this, and I would draw a line with a pencil straight across, because it's the furthest distance here and then furthest distance over there. Next, I'm going to do this probably somewhere around here, furthest distance to furthest distance. You're kind of zoning in on the center, but then now come across here, furthest to furthest, and then the same thing over here. Do it a few more times if you like on varying angles, but all that's going to do is it's going to allow you to find the exact center point of this log. Why do you want the center point? Well, because you want the legs to be as sturdy as possible. If you just jam legs wherever you feel like it, and you can do, again, in 3s or 4s or however you feel comfortable. Typical blocks I've seen usually have 3 legs, because that's enough. If it's splayed out enough, it's very stable. But once you find that center point, that's when you grab this guy. Find that center point and establish where do you want your legs, you know? So you found where it is. Whereabouts do you want to have those legs situated? I suggest that you have them a little bit further out, not so inside, so you want them out here for stability. And when you do decide to install them, they're going to be on an angle, because you want them splayed out a little bit. Not too much though. Usually about 45 degrees or 40 degrees is roughly okay. Anything past that, it starts to get in the way and you'll trip over things. So about 40 to 45 degrees, you can play with that. So again, you sit there, you find your center point, and then you create a circle. Once the circle's met, anywhere on those points that you'd like to, you can actually get this guy now and create a triangle on the inside that's measured correctly. And then what that does is it essentially marks your 3 points that you'd like to use for the legs. And one more time, you want to try to have a circle that's pretty far out there, just to be able to get more stability. And that's basically it. This is my 1.5 inch auger bit. And you don't need 1.5 inches. This is overkill, but I use this for the pole lathe in getting the legs up, and you need a bit more stability, so I had to go with this width. 1 inch will do. If you have a 1 inch auger bit or any kind of wood boring 1 inch bit that can go through green wood, you're fine, you're laughing. So what you'd like to do is to get this in a drill with enough power. And then when you're about to go ahead and you've marked off where you want your 3 legs to go, you have to drill on an angle. Now there's, it's escaping my name right now, but you know what I mean. Essentially, it's like a compass or whatever that you can mark angles. And then when you rest it down, you know which way to angle the drill so you're not getting too far off that 45-degree mark. So once that's done, you find your points, drill in on those angles in those 3 areas, and you're ready to install the legs. What do the legs look like? Legs are anything that you want. Now for this guy as an example, I just used some maple in order to make this little bench. So all I did was take the maple branches and axe them out to the point where there's nice wood left over and angles there, and then I hammered it in. After they were hammered in, all I had to do was measure the exact length of everything so that it sat relatively flat. And that's all you're going to do for the chopping block. And that's what I did down here as well too. So you're going to create the legs in hopefully whatever length you'd like. And then you're going to hammer them in and make sure they wedge in. That's it. They wedge in very powerfully, very sturdy. And once you get that, you flip over the block and you're laughing. So the last crucial parts in order to get the best chopping block for you and what you're doing is measuring the height. What would you like to do? It's as easy as this. So you've gone ahead and you've cut the legs and you've hammered them in. You've chosen a length roughly. It doesn't have to be accurate because now you're dialing it into the accuracy. You flip it over and the block is going to be yay or nay. I usually make my legs a little bit larger, so I'm going to be able to trim them down to get them to the right height. Well, what's the right height? So now bear with me here. My height is off because there's a lot of packed snow and ice here and wood chips. If this was melted off, I'd be able to show you. But what you want essentially, now I'm a bit higher up here, like I just said, but what you want essentially is to drive your fist. Stand up straight and drive your fist down. The bottom end of your fist, wherever that is, that's the ideal area for your chopping board. And mine fits perfectly, but as you can see, I'm a couple of inches off the surface. One more time, it's because I'm standing on a couple of inches of snow and ice. So you drive it down, and that is the ideal height for your chopping block. Why? Because when you're going ahead and you're axing, you want that full extension of your arm to be able to hit the block. Proper stance when you are axing is usually taking your dominant hand, left or right, that leg, and moving it back, drop stepping. I'm a right-handed guy. I would drop step like this, lean into it, almost like you're ready to run, but you're not really. Hold on to what you're doing, and you're axing, full length, full blow. You don't want to be doing this over and over with the block that's too high, because your elbow is going to burn out quite a lot in your shoulder. Whereas you get that full extension, you're using your arm to the fullest. And when it's too low, it's obviously too low, you're going to be swinging like a maniac. You don't want to do that either. So the reason why you're also dropping your foot back here is because there's some major arteries in your legs as well too. You don't want to have an axe skip or slip and then drive into those areas, because you wouldn't even be able to make it to the hospital, you'd be done. So you just have to watch what you're doing, go slow, and again, create your stance. This is how it's going to be, full extension. It's not much you're losing in the height of it when you drop your step back. You're still in the same area. So that's essentially it. Once you get that mark, you know where it is. You ask somebody to measure from the ground to your fist, or measure it yourself. And then once you do that, you essentially will now turn over the axe block, measure the length that you just got all the way to the end of the legs, and then cut the legs appropriately. And that's it. Roll it back over, start chopping. Now here's one thing. If you make a mistake, it's not the end of the world. So if you've gone a little bit too low and you're like, dang, it's a bit too low, I'm really going to have to force myself down. Not the end of the world. Wherever you are, depending on what you're doing, most people will go ahead and put this on grass or dirt or something like that. All you have to do is stand, work yourself down. It only takes a moment, and you can actually create an area to work yourself down a little bit. So now that you're reaching the block perfectly, you don't have to worry. It's not a huge deal. Now you don't have to do that either. You can go ahead and redo your legs again if you'd like to, if you made a mistake. For the most part, just work yourself down and you're right to the proper height that you want to be, and you're laughing. There's not much more after that. You can just go ahead and chop away. And if you enjoy it so much, your axe block will start to look like this. You can tell over time, the more you axe, the more it gets frayed, the more it gets dented, the more there's grooves. All of that helps actually when you're carving, when you're using yourself as a carving block. The only reason why is because you can actually stick the piece of wood in, prop it up, pry it up where you want it, and it's safer and won't slip. So it's actually better to get it like this. Most blocks, when first starting, will be something like that, very little marks or anything, very flat. And once you start going, it's going to become really mashed up and beat up. But this is exactly what you want. Thanks for sticking around. Thanks for being part of this journey. Thanks for the subscribing. See you next time.